You have been told the Sindhu Valley had no kings, no weapons, just trade. A golden hen too valuable for anyone to kill. But what if the story is a lie? Because buried in the ruins lies a paradox too big to ignore. Think of today. When the US imposed tariffs on China, Beijing threatened to choke the world supply of rare earths, lithium, and silicon, the critical resources of the future. America could topple weak oil states, but it cannot touch China because China is weaponized. Now look back 5,000 years. Sumer and Akkad were hungry empires. Egypt was devouring stone to raise pyramids. These powers had ships. They traded through Dilmun. If Sindhu was one of a trading hub, why didn't they sail in? Why not seize Lothal, Dholavira, the ports that controlled the flow of goods? What stopped them? What secret shield did Sindhu hold that even the warlords of the ancient world would not cross? History books repeat one answer. But what I found is what historians fear the most. A mysticism they won't acknowledge. A science so powerful it shatters the ego of modern powers. A secret that could change the world. So are you ready to see what I found in the Sindhu Saraswati civilization? And before we start, let's step back a moment. What do historians really say about the Sindhu Valley? I promise I'll keep it brief. Along the Sindhu and Saraswati River rose the world's largest ancient civilization. Bigger than Egypt, bigger than Mesopotamia. Thousands of settlements. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, Dholavira, Lothal, Rakhigadi, all laid out with perfect planning. Historians call it the most advanced civilization of its time. And strangely, they found no supreme power, no kings, and no army. It was a utopia that every contemporary civilization and every kingdom after them dreamt of. But the Sindhu people were living it for over 5,000 years. Archaeology tells us Sindhu became rich because of trade. From Dilmun, ships carried Sindhu goods to Mesopotamia, and the Sumerians were obsessed with them. Beads of carnelian, seals, cotton, ivory, lapis lazuli. To them, Sindhu was a marketplace of gold, too valuable to destroy. That's why textbooks call it a peaceful utopia, a golden hen no empire wanted to kill. But is that the truth? History shows us what powerful empires do to utopias. They crush them. They seize their resources. Then why was Sindhu so different? Look at Sumer. Its kings carved victories in stone. City after city swallowed in the name of gods. And they had the power to reach far. Fleets of ships crossing the Persian Gulf. Docking at Dilmun, trading with Sindhu itself. Akkad rose on war, turning neighbors into ash. Egypt, the pharaohs enslaved thousands to raise pyramids, stripped weaker lands for stone, gold, and grain. These empires were not blind. They had ships, they had roads, sea lanes through Dilmun, and land corridors tying Mesopotamia to Sindhu. If they wanted to march in, yes, they could. And yet, none of them dared to cross into Sindhu. Not Sumer, not Akkad, not Egypt. And if you know human history, then Golden Hen is always slaughtered or at least held captive. So why was Sindhu so different? Before we dive into Sindhu itself, let's see how its neighbors described it. To the Sumerian, this land wasn't the Indus Valley. They called it Miluha. Clay tablets tell us ships from Miluha docked in Akkad under Sargon. Gudea of Lagash filled his temples with carnelian and lapis. Over 3 records list of a village called the Miluhan village inside Mesopotamia, complete with its own granary. And it went further. Akkad even appointed an official named Su-Ilisu, the interpreter of the Miluhan language. Imagine that, an empire that read Egyptian and Elamites. Yet, for Sindhu, they needed a translator. Miluhan's language itself was a fortress. And that fortress has never fallen. Not even today. And what we are talking about right now, well, this is not myth. This is hard evidence carved in stone. And yet most people don't realize how deep the connection ran. Because not every tablet has been translated. Thousands of Sumerian tablets still lie sealed in museums and vaults. Without the Rosetta Stone to crack Akkadian, Miluha's shadow might have stayed invisible. So yes, Miluha was real. Its ships, its merchants, its language, all alive in Sumer. But what exactly did it bring? Archaeology confirms it. Carnelian, lapis, ivory, cotton, exotic animals, most of it passed through Dilmun, the hub we have already explored. And archaeology show another imbalance. In Mesopotamia, Indus seals appear everywhere. Unicorn, bulls, yogic figures. But in Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro and Lothal and Dholavira and Rakhigarhi, not a single Mesopotamian seal. The flow was one way. Sindhu left its mark abroad, but never let outsiders leave theirs at home. Now, here's the twist. Miluha shows up not just in trade records, but in Sumerian myths. The hymn of Enki and Ninhursag gives an order. Miluha must load its ships with Carnelian timber and gold and sail them to Enil at Nippur. Enki himself clears the sea for these voyages. The tablets even name the Magellan boats of Miluha, carrying treasure straight into Mesopotamia's holy city. And here's the paradox. The Sumerians believed the Anunnaki had flycrafts, weapons of the sky, power to destroy cities. They came from Nibiru, but for gold, the one resource their myths say they needed to save their planet. They still waited for Miluhan traders. If they were so powerful, why didn't they invade? Why not march on Lothal or Dholavira or the ports where the gold flowed from? The records are clear. They fought Magan. They subdued Dilmun. But with Miluha, it was only trade. Never conquest. Even the Anunnaki stayed out of Miluha. Another hymn calls Miluhan the Black Land. Forest, riches, animals. A land blessed and set apart. To Mesopotamians, Dilmun was paradise. Miluha was different. It's God's treasure chest. And when God single out a land that way, that isn't geography. That's reverence. We find Miluhan village in Mesopotamia, interpreters from the Miluha language at Akkad's court, but no war captives, no record of conquest. Long after the Indus decline, Assyrians still used the name Miluha to mean any far-off land of legendary wealth. The message was simple. Sindhu, Miluha, was real, rich, and untouchable. Its power was more than a trade. It was knowledge carried into the Vedas. Before we go further, one thing clear. The Arya invasion theory is a colonial myth, not fact. I've broken it down into multiple videos, so I won't repeat it here. If you're still confused, go watch those. Let's start with the ground. Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, Dholavira. These were not random towns. They were designed with grid layouts, perfect drainage, reservoirs, and flood controls. Colonial tried to push the theory that Indus ended in the Great Flood. But archaeology shows the opposite. The cities were engineered against floods. Dholavira had massive water tanks, dams, and channels that could hold back catastrophe. So here's the question. Did they already remember a great flood? Did they design their cities as shield against another? While Mesopotamia crumbled under every flood of the Tigris and Euphrates, Indus cities stood for centuries. They were built to resist nature itself. Now look at their control of the elements. Fire altar at Kalimangal, purification bath at Mohenjo-Daro, water storage at Dholavira. This was mastery of fire, water, and earth. Rig Veda itself shows Indra changing rivers to win battles. That's control of natural forces written in their hymns. And then comes sound. The Vedas call it Shabd Brahman, sound as the source of creation. In Atharvaved, mantras are described as weapons. In Mahabharata, sages summon astra, weapons of fire, wind, and water, through vibrations and will. And here is where Mohenjo-Daro gives us a clue. At its peak, the city had nearly 50,000 people. But only 40 to 50 skeletons were ever found. Many lying in streets, some with hands linked, as if death came suddenly. If it was an asteroid, there would have been no escape. If it was a volcano, there should be ash. But there are no volcanoes anywhere near it. The only theory left is weapon of mass destruction, so targeted that most were warned and clear. but some were caught in the blast. This is exactly what our texts call an astra. Next, control of life. The Rigved Soma hymns say that we have tasted immortality. Ayurveda builds on this. Knowledge of plants, medicines, and rejuvenation. The story of Chayavana being restored to youth by the Ashwins is one example. Jain and Hindu tradition both describe sages living for centuries. While Sumerian chased immortality in Dilmun, Sindhu was already practicing it. Then, control of the cosmos. Jyotish was not superstition, it was astronomy. The Vedas map nakshatras, solar and lunar cycles. Dholavira city is aligned to solstice. Puranas describe the gods summoned from other planets. A memory of a civilization aware of cosmic forces. Sindhu didn't just map rivers, it mapped time and space itself. And finally, control of society. No palaces, no tombs, no armies. Standardized weights, planned neighborhoods, equality in design. In a society where every citizen knew mantras, sounds, and had access to Soma, no tyrant could rise. Power was balanced. This is why Sindhu looks like a utopia. Not because it was weak, but because everyone was strong. This is exactly what later texts describe as Shambhala, a kingdom of the worthy, where every citizen is enlightened and no outsiders can conquer it. Sindhu was already living that reality. Not hidden behind mountains, but on the plains of Saraswati. A real Shambhala. Sumer claimed the Anunnakis descended and gave them order. The Vedas claim the Rishis ascended inwards and drew power from within. Two mirrors, two traditions, but only one was untouchable. And that was Sindhu. So this is the shield. Control of nature, control of sound, control of life, control of cosmos, control of society. And this is why no empire touched them. Not Sumer, not Akkad, not Egypt. Even the Anunnaki in their own myths never crossed east of Dilmun. They took gold from Miluha but never conquest. Archaeology shows us the shield in stone. The texts show us the shield in memory. The Mahabharata, dated by researchers like Nileshok to around 5500 BCE, falls inside the Indus timeline. That means the same mystic science, Astra, Som, element control, was alive during Sindhu's peak. The Vedas were not written at the peak of Sindhu. For thousands of years, they were passed orally, sound guarded like a weapon. Every syllable memorized, every accent preserved, because the power was in vibration itself. Writing came only when the Saraswati dried, cities declined, and the oral chain began to break. The sages locked in the text, not to reveal it, but to preserve it. That is why the Vedas are not myth. They are instructions, hymns of sound, energy, and rituals, a record of a shield that was already fading. The Puranas pushed the story even further back. They describe ages before humans were civilized. Stories like Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean, looks like fable on the surface. But in code, they describe forces, energies, and extraction of power. Allegories preserved when direct knowledge was no longer safe. Now ask the question, why is this knowledge hidden? Thousands of cuneiform tablets still lie sealed in museums. Many are untranslated. If they speak more of Miluha, why are they locked away? We are lucky that the Anunnaki myth survived at all, even if written off as legends. But what else is sitting in the vaults? What truths are being withheld? Because if ancient humans once controlled vibration, life, and cosmos itself, then the empires of today look weak. Realizing the knowledge would not just rewrite history, it would shatter the very idea of progress that modern powers depend on. And here is the biggest secret that still scares the superpowers today. Why do they chase myths of utopian cities like Shambhala? Why are they obsessed with lost paradises? Because they know what it means if such knowledge comes back. Look at our progress. Fossil fuels, plastic, machines that strip planet. Every new invention damages the very home we live in. This is not advancement. This is dependency. Sindhu was different. Even Mesopotamia was different. Their development worked with nature, not against it. Cities aligned to rivers and stars. Water harnessed, not wasted. Energy balanced with rituals and sound. This is advancement in harmony. This is the real mysticism. The secret of this knowledge is simple. It only survives if it is protected from misuse. And that is what terrifies those in power. Because we are in Kali Yuga, an age of greed, control, and corruption. The guardians of this knowledge know that if it falls into wrong hands, it will be twisted for domination. That is why the knowledge is sealed. That is why so much of it is already gone. And this cycle cannot be stopped. As hunger for control grows, this wisdom will continue to disappear until nothing is left. And the text says, when that day comes, when the last memory of the shield is lost, then Kalki will appear. The end of Kali Yuga, the return of Shambhala. And just like Dilmun was a paradise in Sumerian memory, Shambhala will rise again in ours. Now, you don't forget to check out the playlist and also the video on Shambhala. This is it from my side. This is Harry signing off. Stay curious.